Straight off, I have to admit, I've been going back and forth about whether or not to cover this story. But as I was plodding along with my research, I came across something that kind of blew my mind. Something that makes me feel that I am on the right track and that there is more to this story than meets the eye. Now, this is not intended to be clickbait. Hopefully you'll agree. Of course, I'm talking about the December 4th early morning execution of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thomson. Although there have always been aspects of it that I found extremely fishy, which we'll get into, I felt the coverage was already pretty saturated. I don't typically cover general news stories. The point of Shadow Wreckardz as a channel is to look into the shadows. Where are we being deceived or misled? At first, this story just didn't seem to fit the bill. Sure, some elements of it didn't add up, but I lacked the certainty I like to have about my story angle. Now, did I suspect from the onset that Luigi Mangione was not the shooter? Absolutely. Did I feel certain about it? No. Hence my hesitation. But then I was watching this segment from a major network, and one of the panel members dropped a tidbit that even the anchor seemed taken aback by. I feel that this little piece of information has gone largely unnoticed, and it definitely boosts my confidence that something shady's going down that we got to shed some light on. Welcome back to Shadow Wreckardz, independent media and film. I'm Scott. Let's continue. How about we start with the elephant in the room, or the elephant in this case? This guy doesn't look like this guy. That's my initial gut reaction. Now, what are we looking at here? On the left, we have surveillance images from the New York City hostel where the suspect was alleged to have stayed from November 24th to December 4th, which is the day of the shooting. My understanding is that these were not taken on the day of the crime, but at some time during this person's stay. On the right, we have surveillance images taken within an hour of the shooting at a Starbucks near the scene of the crime, where the shooter was alleged to have stopped for a bottle of water and a kind bar just prior to executing the victim. Now, according to authorities, we're dealing with a lone gunman who had no help or inside information about Brian Thomson's schedule. The arrest warrant asserts that the suspect was seen leaving the hostel about 5:34 a.m. and shot the victim about 6:44 a.m. and somewhere in that hour and 10 minutes felt he had plenty of time to stop for breakfast. Does that add up? We'll get back to that. So we have a set of photos taken at or near the scene of the crime within an hour of its occurrence. In all of these images, the suspect appears to be wearing the same jacket, mask, and backpack. Surveillance video appears to show that same suspect executing who we're told is Brian Thomson. I see no reason to question that at this time. It seems pretty straightforward that the person in these photos is the shooter. In order to connect this crime to Luigi Mangione, we have to believe that the person in this set of images is the same person as in this set of images. I don't think that's at all obvious. I'm not going to do some technical analysis. That's not my area of expertise. I have done professional photography, so I am aware that differences in lighting and image quality can account for some of the differences in the appearance. That being said, my first impression is that the person in these images has fairer skin, lighter hair, and softer features than the person in these photos. This guy has more angular features, extremely dark bushy eyebrows, and dark eyelashes. Is there enough of the face exposed in this picture to show those features? It appears there's plenty, and yet we don't see them. Images alleged to be of Luigi Mangione taken both before and after the crime all show these features. What happened in between? A shave? But let me get to that revelation that kind of blew my mind. Maybe it won't blow yours, but I was honestly taken aback. Allow me to set the context. I had already seen numerous news segments claiming that Mayor Eric Adams suggested they already knew the name of their suspect, but didn't want to release it to the public so as not to tip him off. One of his more memorable quotes regarding this was, "The net is tightening."
But the net is tightening, and we're going to bring this person to justice.
These statements were made to reporters on Saturday, December 7th. According to reports, the mayor's office later walked back those comments. Here's a bit of that coverage.
In the brazen murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thomson, New York City Mayor Eric Adams initially saying today, authorities know who the suspect is. He's now walking back that statement.
As you've indicated, Mayor Adams earlier today made comments indicating that police may know the identity of this killer. They have since walked that comment back. But take a listen. It certainly sounds to be the case. Listen up.
we don't want to release that now. If you do, you're basically giving a tip to the person we're seeking, and we do not want to give him an upper hand at all. Let him continue to believe he can hide behind the mask. We're going to, just as we revealed his face, we're going to reveal who he is, and we're going to bring him to justice.
So the mayor, at least, was under the impression that they were closing in on their guy and knew who that person was. Again, this is on Saturday, December 7th. Fast forward to Monday, December 9th. That's when they announced that a suspect was taken into questioning in Altoona, PA. It's alleged that the tip came in from a McDonald's employee around 9:14 a.m. This person allegedly recognized the suspect from the surveillance photos released by NYPD. Of course, this suspect turned out to be Luigi Mangione. I didn't really think much of any of this. I assumed they were finally able to locate that suspect around which the mayor claimed the net was tightening. Then I stumbled upon this CNN segment.
The breaking news, our CNN's chief law enforcement and intelligence analyst and also the former NYPD Deputy Commissioner, John Miller, retired NYPD captain and author of The Guns of Antwerp, John Monahan. San Francisco police identified the suspect 4 days before he was captured and arrested. They passed that information on to the FBI. Eric Adams on Saturday seemed to indicate that they kind of knew who this was, but obviously it wasn't until a few days later that they actually arrested him. What happens there in terms of police in San Francisco pass along this tip? Obviously they're getting a lot of stuff, but this was who it was, actually.
Right, and of course they didn't know that. And they had, as John and I were talking before we came on, they had hundreds of tips similar to that. But this one came from a cop who, as you said, interviewed his mother. Her mother knows her son.
When she filed the missing persons report.
Right. Apparently filed it in San Francisco because that's where he was last seen. Well, I won't say it's shocking, but I understand the way the FBI works in comparison to the way the local police department works. There's a lot of bureaucracy there. Like, if I have something on my case that came up, oh, Jen needs this for her case, I can just lean over and hand it to you. The FBI's got to go 3 flights up, 2 hallways down, 3 flights down. They can't, they have rules of engagement with each other. So that information was properly sent from the FBI San Francisco office to the FBI New York office, and it was being processed. And then we caught them before they alerted us. It's kind of cumbersome. It's a bureaucratic nightmare, but no one ignored it or dropped the ball on it. It was being processed in accordance with their rules.
Now that was interesting, but this next part is what floored me. It comes from former NYPD Deputy Commissioner John Miller, and it's clear he still has some connections within the department.
And it did make its way over to the squad. So it comes out of San Francisco PD Friday. It goes to the San Francisco FBI office. They ship it to the FBI New York office, who does a workup on it on Saturday. Sunday, the NYPD detectives have it. But then it's in the pile of 200 similar leads. And what Eric Adams was talking about was, we don't want to let the person know we know. That was an entirely different suspect, who at that time was the top suspect, who has since washed out. But that's the nature of these cases. Needles, haystacks, and moments of destiny and luck after a lot of hard work.
What? Not the same person? So that suspect they were honing in on Saturday, December 7th, was an entirely different person? A person whose name was known to them? Seems like a shockingly quick pivot. And lo and behold, Luigi Mangione is found carrying everything you could possibly need to lock him up. An illegal gun, a manifesto, a fake ID, even a large sum of domestic and foreign money suggesting he's a flight risk. Money he claimed in court he knew nothing about and suggested may have been planted. Now I get it, criminals claiming that evidence was planted is probably pretty common. But why not dispute all of the evidence? Like the gun, for instance. Who knows, maybe that'll come. Now right about now you may be thinking, that's interesting, but if Luigi Mangione didn't do it, then why did he have a gun, manifesto, fake ID, and so on and so forth? Well, let me propose a very high-level alternative theory. What if the motive suggested by the shell casings, deny, defend, depose, as well as the monopoly money found in the discarded backpack, is just a smokescreen? It always seemed a bit cheesy and contrived to me. Perhaps Brian Thomson was not killed by some lone ideological activist wanting to make a statement about the corruption of the health insurance industry. Perhaps he was taken out for a much more personal reason. Perhaps he had information and might have to testify about something that could cause great harm or financial loss to some very powerful people. He was a co-defendant, along with 2 other United Healthcare Group executives in an insider trading lawsuit where I believe $117 million worth of stock were alleged to have been illegally traded. That's a lot of scratch. People have been killed for much less. Now, I'm not suggesting any particular person was involved. Who knows what may have come out as a result of that lawsuit? I will say this. The deadline to respond to that complaint was December 23rd, 2024. And as a result of this incident, it was pushed out to March 1st of 2025. According to authorities, this image shows the suspect engaged in a call on a burner phone. Who's on the other end of that call? Could it be someone informing the shooter about the victim's intended path? I think it's doubtful that the shooter, whoever he is, was acting alone. This appeared to be a guy who was confident about the movements of his target. If the telegraphed motive is indeed fake, this could definitely be a multi-person operation. And if the stakes are potentially in the hundreds of millions, it could also have a very high budget. Is it possible that Luigi Mangione is to this incident what Lee Harvey Oswald was to the Kennedy assassination? A person who was manipulated to be in the right place at the right time to take the fall. And I think I'll wrap it up there. Now, this is not a true crime channel, so I'm not sure how much more coverage I will provide for this story. But if you've enjoyed the insights I've provided, please let me know. I have many more thoughts on the details of this case. As always, if you've enjoyed the content, please like, comment, subscribe, and share the video. See you soon.